Hi, it's Emma, and today I'm going to be doing a science experiment with scrambled eggs to, one, make a version where the curds in the scrambled eggs are really creamy and fine by using low heat and stirring constantly, and then the other version is going to be where the curds are really light and large by letting the scrambled eggs puff up and then stirring less frequently and setting them to the side. And my hypothesis is that the eggs with lighter, lighter curds are gonna have more volume and be fluffier than the creamy finer curds, and that the creamy finer curds will be overall smaller. So I can show you guys my ingredients. All right, I have my eggs set up in their bowls that I'm gonna crack and mix them up in, and today we're using that Smart from Hy-Vee eggs, grade A, large white eggs. And for the butter, we're using unsalted sweet cream butter, and the cooking spray is Carlini canola oil spray. I'll just show you my pan. So I'm using a heavier pan. It does have a non-stick coating, and my stove is electric, as you can see, and the pan does nicely fit the burner size, so the heat will be as evenly distributed as possible. I'm gonna start with the creamier, finer curds first. So I'm just gonna crack these eggs in this bowl and mix them up really well, and then I will warm up the pan. I have just mixed up the eggs and currently they are sitting around 56-57 degrees. So now what we're gonna do is warm up the pan. I'm gonna warm up the empty pan until it gets hot enough. I'm gonna put it on medium, and then once I start feeling hot, then I'm gonna take it off the burner and put cooking spray on it. This heating up the pan and also the non-cooking spray, or the cooking spray, helps prevent sticking. All right, the pan, I have now had it at medium low at 3 out of 10 heat, and now it is warm enough for me to spray with cooking spray. Now I will be adding the oil, or not the oil, the butter, and it's really important to keep the temperature low because butter has a really low burn temperature compared to oil or even clarified butter. I did not measure how much butter I put. I just put the stick on there and then kind of moved it around. Now I will add the eggs and constantly be turning or stirring to create a fine curd. And I am just using a spatula, just a plastic spatula. And I did lower the heat just now because I feel like it is too high. The eggs are cooking pretty fast, faster than I thought. I'm really trying to constantly be stirring to really create a difference between these finer curds and the light, fluffier curds. Also, it's really important not to use too many eggs for your pan, because if you use too many and you can't stir correctly, then you're not gonna distribute the heat properly and evenly. So I think it's probably better to err on the side of just get a bigger pan than try to cook 10 eggs in a small pan or something like that. Also, I will be removing it from the heat before it's fully done, because the eggs will keep cooking on the side. And I think it's now time to do that. I will turn the heat off and I will kind of wait to see. When the eggs first came off the heat, or just now as I'm taking the heat off the eggs, they are sitting around 150-ish degrees. So we'll see if that increases or decreases as they sit out. Also, here's a good view at the eggs after I took them off, to see if I took them off too early or too late. I might have, but hopefully they keep cooking after I take them off. It's now been about 3 minutes that they've had time to be off the stove, and that temperature has gotten down to 130, give or 135. So definitely a significant difference. But the eggs, to me, do look a little bit more cooked. It's really hard to see, but I think that residual heat did finish cooking them. All right, now I will be repeating that process to create lighter, larger, fluffier curds. And so I have my scrambled eggs in here, and I am heating up the pan, and then I will use the non-stick cooking spray. And with these larger, lighter curds, my goal is to not keep the heat quite as low, because it's not as necessary for that as it is for the fine curding, and to also stir less frequently. I just added the non-stick coating, and now I will be adding the butter. And I tried to use roughly the same amount of butter as I did for the creamier, finer curds. Again, not gonna stir quite as frequently, so kind of waiting for them to set. Also, it's important to note that my stovetop and it's electric, so it doesn't provide as much distribution of heat. Here are the eggs when they first come off the stovetop. They're at 167. The eggs have now cooled down quite a bit, back to 120, and I did remove them from the stovetop. It's hard to see. Well, I didn't film the other pan for the smaller curds, but these lighter, larger curds left a lot less egg on the pan, and the other eggs, there was a lot more egg that stuck to the pans. Just to look at the difference, I think there definitely is a difference. These are much smaller curds, and these are much larger curds. This one has a much creamier texture, which I would not normally describe eggs as creamy, but it kind of just does melt in your mouth, which is really interesting. I don't actually kind of like that part. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but I had my brother and his girlfriend try it, and my brother really did not care for that texture, which I thought was interesting. And with these ones, I mean, the difference is just really quite a stark difference. And these ones kind of have a bouncier texture. It bounces back in your mouth, whereas these ones kind of just melt. And you don't have to chew these ones as much, which might be what is throwing my brother off. My hypothesis was correct. There is, of course, the same, I used the same amount of eggs, but it looks like this has a more full plate than this one, just because these ones are so compact and stirred so frequently. When you're heating up an egg or stirring it or beating it or whatever you're doing, you are messing with the proteins, and the proteins will denature, unwind, and then relink up with unwound proteins, and they form this gel-like response. And also other things that can do this are acids or salt, so it's important to add salt or acids that you're going to add after you're done cooking the eggs, or else it will disrupt the protein denaturation, which is why I didn't add salt before my eggs. So I would say in general I did have a successful experiment. My hypothesis was proven correct, that those finer, creamier curds did have a smaller surface area and volume compared to those lighter, fluffier curds. And I thought it was interesting that my brother, his girlfriend, and I both all preferred those lighter, fluffier, larger curds. And some other experiments I thought about doing while I was doing this project is messing with salt while before cooking, adding salt once you have already beaten up the eggs in the bowl, versus adding salt to taste after. I think that would be interesting because personally I like to add the salt before, but that's just because I like my salt mixed up. So that's just what I've done in the past, but now I'm interested to see if there is a difference between adding salt before and after, because I just don't like my salt to be super concentrated in one area, and I feel like that happens when you add salt after cooking. But I would be interested to see if I'm proven to see what exactly the science behind that is, and to see I would be interested to see what the difference is if I actually did that. And then also adding water, about I think Courier says 2 tablespoons per egg on page 206 makes the eggs fluffier, because the water steams up and causes the eggs to be fluffier when you add heat to it. And so I think it would be interesting to play with that aspect. I think that the eggs with extra water would be fluffier than those without. And also it'd be interesting to play with milk because Courier says that it's a controversial topic to see whether milk actually does make to make the eggs creamier, but some people think that it makes the eggs tougher because the proteins from the whey in milk like to coagulate with the proteins of the eggs. And I think it would be interesting to play with the heavy cream too, because that is supposed to make eggs creamier if you add it at the end. Also, I've seen a lot of people do add cottage cheese in their scrambled eggs to add a little bit more protein. So I think seeing the different types of cottage cheeses, I guess that's not really an egg part, but seeing how cottage cheese affects eggs and different brands of cottage cheeses, whole milk versus different types of milks in the cottage cheeses, I think that'd be really interesting. And I think it would be, obviously we just played with the heat and stirring aspect, but I think it'd be interesting to play with the size of pan and also the amount of eggs to see how easily you can recreate the same texture with larger amount of eggs. Also, I think it would be interesting to see the difference between oil, which has a higher capacity and ability to withstand heat than butter, and just to see the difference between that and clarified butter. I think that butter would have you would have to keep the heat the lowest with butter and be able to go higher with oil. Yeah, that's all the suggestions I can think of. Thank you for watching my experiment.